Hi pen fans, this is Brian at edisonpen.com. Hope everybody's doing well. Hey, it's time for the Sunday blog. You'll notice that I have switched this to Sundays. It proved to be kind of difficult for my schedule to get these done on Friday at the end of the day, so I'm going to switch these over to Sundays. So, today the topic is going to be eyedropper pens, converting cartridge converter pens to eyedroppers, why do it, and how to. Alright? Okay, so to begin, first off, what is an eyedropper pen? I remember when I first started collecting pens, I really didn't even know what an eyedropper was. I heard people talking about them a lot. Essentially, an eyedropper is one of the first filling systems that was ever used in fountain pens, and it's a non-self-filling system. Basically, what that means is, rather than having a cartridge, converter, a piston, something that draws ink up into the pen, instead, you're going to just simply remove, in the case of a cartridge converter pen, you're going to remove the converter and pour ink directly into the barrel. So the barrel itself is your ink reservoir, and you screw the section back on, and that's how you fill the pen. Essentially, you just pour ink right into the pen itself. Now, why do we want to do this? Well, the big reason, and the most common that people use eyedroppers for, the most common reason, is because the ink capacity is monstrous. The ink capacity of a standard cartridge converter is about 0.5 milliliters. Edison bulb fillers are a lot larger than that. They hold 2.5 milliliters of ink. Well, guess how much an eyedropper, at least an Edison eyedropper, holds? 5 milliliters. So literally, it's 10 times the ink capacity of a converter. So that's the big benefit for people that write long periods of time and they don't bother changing their inks. They don't want different colors. They want to have lots of ink capacity. The eyedropper is perfect for this. Now, most of what I'm going to tell you today applies just to Edison pens. However, can you do this to other pens? Of course, it just depends on a couple of factors. Number one, make sure that whatever pen you want to do this to does not have any metal components inside. The metal components can foul your ink, and you don't want that to happen. So everything that the ink is going to be exposed to should be, acrylic, celluloid, ebonite, whatever material the pen is made from. If there's metal components in there, you really can't do that. Every Edison pen is a candidate for an eyedropper, just so you guys know. Now, what do you need to do this? Essentially, you need, obviously, a pen, an eyedropper pipette, silicone grease, and ink. So when it comes to the eyedropper pipette and the silicone grease, if any of you need any of this, contact me. If you're an Edison pen owner, I'll give this stuff to you for free. If you don't own an Edison pen and you'd like to use this stuff for another pen, contact me and I can tell you what I'll charge you, but trust me, it won't be very much. How do you do this? Essentially, let's pretend that this converter is back on this pen. And by the way, what is this pen? This is the newest that Edison is offering. This is the Edison Nouveau Premier in that amazing purple color. I'm real happy with this color and how this pen turned out. It was neat. So anyways, here's how we're going to do this to a pen just like this. Basically, you're going to remove the converter, and you're not going to use it. You're going to fill the ink directly into here. But before you do that, you need to do a little bit of preparation, and I apologize, there's one thing that I forgot to mention that you need. I use a broken Q-tip like this, or a toothpick, or something along those lines to apply the silicone grease. So what you want to do is, these threads are pretty fine pitch and also pretty precise. However, I really prefer people to use the silicone grease. It's not always necessary. The pen could seal perfectly well on its own, but the truth is I don't want to be responsible. I don't want one of my pens to ruin someone's expensive suit. So I like to recommend that everybody uses a little bit of silicone grease. So essentially I'm just getting a little bit of grease on the end of the Q-tip. It does not take a lot. This grease is nice and thick and sticky, and it'll stick around for a while. Remember, you guys might have seen this in the last bulb filler maintenance video. This is basically, I'm doing the exact same thing here, but of course there's no bulb filler mechanism. So I'm now going to screw this into the pen, If I didn't apply too much, then I shouldn't get too much squeeze out, and in this case I didn't. There's one other place that you might want to consider putting some silicone grease, and that is the internal housing threads, which are right here. You basically unscrew the nib. Remember from the bulb filler video that I did, it's the same exact concept. Now, if you bought an Edison pen from me and you specify that you want to use it as an eyedropper, then I would have already done this for you, and it's really not necessary in that case. But if you are not sure whether or not any grease has been applied to your housing threads, go ahead and do it. When you're doing this, just make sure that you avoid touching the tines here. Screw this back in, and essentially what you've done is given very good insurance against any type of leaks. The only place that these leaks could happen would be in between the housing and the section, and in between the section and the barrel, and we've just sealed those up. So now that they're sealed, we can simply fill our pen. This eyedropper pipette grabs up all the ink and drop it right in. In this case, I think it's typical, 5 milliliters is probably 3 or 4 pipettes full. I'm just going to do 3. Obviously, you don't necessarily need to fill the pen completely. It's tons of ink. Now, you'll notice that with self-filling pens, if I was using a converter or a piston or a bulb or whatever to fill this pen, then I would have put some ink through this, right? It would have gone through the feed, it would have saturated the feed, but I don't have that going on right now because I fill directly to the pen. So I recommend that you just simply take your nib, dip it into your ink well, and that way you've got your feed saturated, you've got ink in the feed ready to go, and then you're set to write. So that's basically exactly how you would convert a standard cartridge converter pen to an eyedropper pen. Now, the one thing that I will warn people about is that eyedroppers can have the tendency to burp at the very end of the fill. Now, what does that mean? When you get to the very, very end of the fill, in other words, when you've only got a very, very tiny amount of ink left, I don't fully understand the physics behind it, and if anybody has theories about this, or if I remember someone on the Fountain Pen Network had a very good explanation that made a lot of sense. It has something to do with exchange of air. Basically, eyedroppers, because the ink capacity is so large, and when you start emptying the pen, you've got a large capacity of air inside there, sometimes at the very, very end of a fill, the pen can burp. And what that means is, you'll be writing along, and then you'll see this little blob of ink that came out. I wonder what that is. Well, you're at the end of your fill. So a lot of times when I'm making eyedroppers for people, maybe I'll put an ink window in here so that you can see when you're getting low. But the bottom line is, if you're not sure whether or not where your ink level is, just simply unscrew, take a look, and if there's not a lot of ink in there, then maybe give it a fill, because when it gets very, very low, eyedroppers can have the tendency to burp that last little bit of ink. Again, it's not really a huge deal. It's not going to make a huge mess, but if you're writing an important document, or if something that's really important to you, you might want to consider that with the eyedropper pens. Okay, hope you guys find this valuable. Have a good one. See ya.